Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Sue Morter from Morter Institute for Bioenergetics. My question for you today is, what do you do when you're in a crisis? How to stay calm in the midst of a crisis is probably one of the most important ideas that we could land in the in-between moments of life. I get interviewed every week multiple times, and one of the most common questions that I get asked is, as we're talking along in the conversation, the interviewer will say, okay, Dr. Sue, what do we do? Let's say I'm at work and my boss comes in and just blows a gasket. What do I do in that moment? Or perhaps I'm driving down the road and I witness a car accident right in front of me, and what do I do? Or I watch the news and I've got all this inundation of information coming in that doesn't seem very delightful. In fact, seems quite the opposite. What do I do in those moments? And my response, first of all, is always what we do in those moments depends on what we've been doing in the in-between moments of our life. How we come to a crisis point moment is very much impacted by what we've been doing in the moments just prior to that. How we live our lives on a day in, day out basis, moment by moment, is ultimately going to determine how effective we are at handling a crisis point moment. So my first understanding that I always want to share with people is that the most powerful thing you can do in that first moment is to recognize instantly, this is not a crisis. There's no such thing as a crisis in my world. I'm not doing crisis. I don't do crisis, okay? So instead, there are some physiological things that we can do to stabilize our energy right in a moment when life is trying to call it out into this splatted, dispersed state that we call being in crisis, being in this hugely impacted state. So, number one, recognize that there are no accidents that happen in our lives and there are no crises that are occurring. There is only an influx of intense energy, and our job is to stabilize that energy and pierce right into that without it having an effect on splatting and dispersing us. We remain collected and connected in, so that as we move forward, it is almost as if the seas part in our presence. Now, we have the capacity to be that stabilized, to be that unwavering, but it isn't by putting up shields and getting our armor out and making sure that we're strong and get our warrior on a constant basis. In fact, it's actually quite the opposite. That we take this energy in kind of a martial arts kind of way, in kind of an Aikido kind of way, which if there's an energy coming into your life with Aikido, you take a hold of that energy as it approaches you and you kind of throw it right past you. Well, we're going to do something like that, except it's going to be much more effective for you. We're going to take that energy and route it up and down the central channel of our core. Because the truth of your energetic presence is this: you're a stream of energy. You're not an isolated, separate entity. You're a stream of energy. And when you quicken that stream, just like putting your thumb over the end of a garden hose, the water picks up power. We want to pick up power by quickening at our core. And as we learn to do that through the principles and the practices of the energy codes, what happens is we start to route this energy that wants to inflame or wants to disperse in some way, and we gather it and start breathing it right up and down our own central channel. By learning how to do so, you become empowered in the same moments that used to deflect or disperse or dissipate your energy and your power. So the first thing is to recognize there's no such thing as a crisis. A crisis is something that I assign as a meaning to a situation that's occurring. And every situation that is occurring, this is another one of the principles of the energy codes, is in my favor. Every single thing that's happening is in my favor. That it is all energy, and energy is moving in such a fashion, giving me the opportunity to awaken to my true power to steward that energy. I just have to learn how. So there is no such thing as a crisis, and the very next thing you're going to do is start to anchor yourself in the central channel core of your being. We know there are 4 anchor points in the energy codes where we're anchoring at the pelvic bowl with this root lock. It's kind of like a Kegel exercise, or it's kind of like contracting the muscles in the pelvic bowl that you would contract if you were going to the bathroom and you had to stop the stream instantly. There are certain muscles you would squeeze in order to do that. When you do that, it pulls your energy from up in your head and routes it right down in through the power centers of your body and anchors you and lands you into the understanding and the reality that this is my gig. And I am here to bring me forward into the world, not to react or deflect or defend myself from anything, but to show up as the pure, powerful presence that I am. Then we hug the heart on the inside of the chest and we constrict the throat just enough that we can hear the vibration there. And then we roll the eyes so that you can feel the tension behind your eyes. When you put all those together, you start to feel a sense of self right down through the core central channel of your body. And from there, you're much more empowered than you will ever be living in your head, trying to strategize about the crisis, figure out who to blame for the crisis, figure out where to hide from the crisis, or figure out your battle plan to go back and attack into the crisis. All of which is unnecessary if we just recognize that this entire scenario is here for me to build the circuitry, energetic circuitry, and then the neurocircuitry to sustain myself as the creator that I am here in this practice ground that we call life. There is no such thing as a crisis. Here's what you do. You breathe in your belly, not in your upper chest. You activate then the part of your nervous system that is creative genius instead of the part that is defensive and guarded and is likely to cause you to retaliate in some way. When there's only one person fighting, there is no fight. When we move into the scenarios in a calm and collected fashion, we have the capacity to disassemble the idea that a crisis was about to ensue. And so we end up leading where we used to defend and oftentimes lose the battle. There is no battle when we decide there is no battle. There is no crisis when we decide so as well. You have the power to dissipate energy, to shape-shift it, and to move it to your advantage and ultimately to the advantage of all of humanity. It's my invitation to you for you to learn how to do this by studying the energy codes. Learn to master these 4 anchor points and the multitude of suggestions that I have on top of that will allow you to unpack yourself, your majestic magnificence right out into this world. The world needs you. It's time for us to have creative leaders out here collaborating for peace, harmony, and well-being in life for a change. Much love to you all. I look forward to seeing you. Visit us at drsuemorter.com and we'll figure out what might serve you the best.